This episode of Android Weekly is brought to you by Domain.com. So does Google actually manipulate your search results? Hell yeah. When you do a video search on Google.com, how often do you find videos from other platforms that are not Google owned? Almost never. They are favoring their own content. Now, some of you may be thinking, of course they do that, Jayce. YouTube completely dominates online video. They're justified in doing so. Well, then look at this. The FTC nearly sued Google a few years back for allegedly scraping content from Yelp, TripAdvisor, and Amazon, and then sticking it into their own search results, and then threatening to remove those companies from the results when they complained. So let's unpack that for a moment. Let's say, for example, that I am searching Google for Toronto temperature, and they scrape their content from the Weather Network, for example, and they put that information at the top of the results. So I don't have to actually click on the Weather Network and go to their site. Google gains all the benefit from scraping that content and doesn't have to give anything to the source for creating the content. Now, you may also be thinking, hey Jayce, they've pulled back from that practice, and they've also correctly stated that they are not a publisher, they are a search company, therefore there is no conflict of interest. That argument would make sense if it were 1985. For example, Android Authority is a publisher. We create and own our own content and sell ads on that content. YouTube is saying that we're just the platform to host the content. But that's semantics. We make money when YouTube makes money. There is still an inherent conflict of interest when Google favors their own platforms. Now, is Google a monopoly? Well, yes, but being a monopoly is not illegal. What's illegal is when you use your monopoly to unfairly advantage another product. So for example, if you were trying to create a competitor to YouTube and Google does not allow you to be indexed in the search results or significantly disadvantages you in the search results, that would be considered anti-competitive and is very illegal and can get Google into some hot water. Just the other week, a new press release from the European Commission laid out a statement of objections which focuses on Google favoring its own Google Shopping comparison product in general search results. But it's pretty difficult to decide exactly where to draw the line when it's Google's job to decide the results. As Amir Afrati points out at the information, the idea that Google is not providing the most relevant results doesn't make a great deal of sense. Google is deciding what's relevant and what is not in the first place. There is no objective standard. The internal memo response from Google, published at Recode, makes for very interesting reading and lays out Google's defense, starting with the idea that, quote, competition is just a click away. The bottom line here is that the European Commission is coming after Google again. And when it comes to Android, they're looking at three key issues. One, whether Google has illegally hindered the development of rival mobile applications. And two, whether Google has illegally prevented manufacturers from creating so-called Android forks. And number three, whether Google has illegally hindered the development of rival applications by bundling certain Google applications on Android, thereby illegally disadvantaging rival applications. It seems perfectly plausible that Google will be found guilty here. When Google insists that specific things are pre-installed or that you can't use Google apps and services on Android forks, it's opening itself up to antitrust issues. But don't you worry about Mother Google. Google's probably going to come to an agreement with the EU, because if they don't, EU could fine them 10% of their 2014 revenue. I don't think that's going to happen. Just think what it would have meant to own Broadcast.com in 1998. Mark Cuban sold it to Yahoo for $5.7 billion in 1999. Oof. Why? Because no domain name extension tells your story with the same level of trust as a .com or .net domain name. .com and .net domain name extensions inject credibility into your online presence. And who doesn't want more credibility? You can save 15% on domain name and web hostings when you use our coupon code Android at domain.com checkout. Don't forget, 15% off when you use our coupon code Android. When you think domain names, think domain.com. Thanks for watching, Android Army. My name is Jayce. You know where I am, right here on Google Plus or Twitter. I also read all the comments. Don't forget about my brothers in Android, Josh, Joe, and the Tech Ninja, Kevin, Lonnie, Chris, Garen, Ash, and Taylor, all working super hard to be your source for all things Android.